Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit of $200. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back. All from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing.
Hey everyone, welcome to the November 22nd edition of Horses to Watch. I'm David Aragona, and on this episode, we're taking a look back at some horses from the past week who encountered adversity and could be worth betting back when they run back in the future. Last week at Aqueduct, we're going to take a look at 3 races spanning 2 days, Friday and Saturday, beginning with 2 races from the Friday, November 18th card. Beginning with the first race of the day, it's a maiden special weight event going a mile and the 16th on the turf course for 2-year-olds. Let's break these runners from the gate, and I want to focus on 2 horses in here. The number 3 Monster Dreams, who you see gets slammed coming out of the starting gate right there, turning his head to the left, and the number 5 Scat to Tap, who was actually the horse that kind of came over on him at the start. He's the one in the blinkers who was going out towards the front end here, and this is a tale of 2 very different trips. The number 3 Monster Dreams, he is a first-time starter in this race, going out for trainer Ray Handel. We'll talk about him a little bit more in just a moment, but take note of the number 5 Scat to Tap, who's on the front end right now, and after breaking a little bit to the left, he gets pretty aggressive under rider Dylan Davis, and doesn't help that rider 2 is outside. The horse number 8 Decanted is also pretty aggressive, and these 2 just kind of go at it on the front end. You can see Dylan trying to get the number 5 Scat to Tap back off of that early leader a little bit as they hit onto the backstretch, but just kind of can't stop this horse from engaging that fellow speed to his outside, and they draw well clear of the rest of the field midway down the backstretch. You can see they've opened up about a 7-length gap on the 3rd place horse at this point in the race, and they are going just much too fast for this distance. 47 flat to the half mile is a pretty quick fraction for 2-year-olds over a course towards the end of the season. It definitely is not the kind of summer firm that we see months ago, and you could see that that horse that's pressing him on the front end, the number 8 Decanted, is getting pretty tired already at this point in the race, and Scat to Tap is going to open up on him, but he's going to prove vulnerable in the stretch to the number 7 C'est Magnifique, who is the eventual winner of this race. That runner got an absolutely perfect trip, whereas Scat to Tap did all that hard work on the front end. But also take note of that number 3 Monster Dreams, who is all the way back in about 6th place at this point. You can see him there towards the inside in those black and red silks. He's just kind of this big, leggy horse who doesn't look like he knows what he's doing just yet. He's going to finish up decently here to just finish in a photo for 5th as they come onto the wire. I thought both of these horses showed potential in this race. Scat to Tap, this was the 2nd turf start of his career. He had run deceptively well in his prior turf attempt when he had gotten a wide trip against a rail bias, and I think showed that he really does have some turf ability in this performance here, surviving that fast pace. And as for Monster Dreams, he was a first-time starter going out for Ray Handel by Always Dreaming, who is really not known as much of a debut influence, hasn't had much debut success at all in his first crop. But the dam of Monster Dreams was a mare named Waltzing Matilda, who won the New York handicap going 10 furlongs. So Monster Dream just feels like one of these 2-year-olds that's a little bit gangly, has to grow into his frame, is probably going to appreciate added distances next year. Just a horse that I thought showed some potential and could do better with this start under his belt moving forward. Let's move on to another race from that Friday, November 18th card at Aqueduct. This is race 9. It's a New York-bred N1X allowance going 6 furlongs for fillies and mares. Let's break these runners from the gate, and we're going to focus on the number 2, Liberty Flame. She's the horse in the white silks and the pink cap that you can see is right in the middle of the pack here. She's trying to get forward and show speed, but the number 4 comes over on her a little bit, and she's forced to steady out of position and gets shuffled all the way back to last. And it's going to get a little bit worse from here because you can see her apprentice rider, Omar Hernandez Moreno, has to tug back on the reins as she's again getting in some traffic about a 16th of a mile into the race. And she just loses contact with the field here, dropping multiple lengths off the second to last place finisher heading into the far turn. When you watch the head-on, you can see he also makes efforts to get this filly out into the center of the racetrack because it does appear that she's reacting badly to kickback. This is kind of an unfamiliar position for Liberty Flame because in her prior starts, she had been more of a forwardly placed front-running type. And you can see here, she's towards the back of the pack, racing widest of all coming into the stretch. That's her in that pink cap all the way towards the back of the pack. And given that this is a totally unfamiliar running style for her, she actually finishes up pretty gamely to get all the way up into fourth by the time they come onto the wire. She's going to be off the screen for much of the stretch drive, but you'll see her come back into the picture as they come onto the wire for this race, actually running by the number 6 at the very end, a horse who typically does have a good finishing kick, but Liberty Flame actually outcloses her to get up to complete the superfecta here. Just thought this was a deceptively strong performance by a horse who has shown potential on occasion before. She had a pretty rough trip at Belmont back in the springtime, was off for a long time after a failed turf experiment during the summer, came back at Aqueduct and ran pretty well at a big price. And then this was her second start off the layoff and just did not get the right trip. I think she's a horse that does have a lot more speed than she showed on this day, but given the amount of front-running speed signed on in this race, maybe she never had a chance to get forward as it was. And she's a horse that could do much better next time out if she's able to draw an outside post position or lands in a race that does not feature as many other front runners. Let's finish up with a race from Saturday's card, November 19th. This is race 5 from last Saturday. It's a maiden special weight event for the 2-year-olds going 6.5 furlongs on the main track. And we're going to focus on the number 8 horse, Slip Mahoney. Let's break these runners from the gate. And this looked like a pretty loaded maiden race coming in. There were stories on multiple horses in this field, including the half of a Chad Brown trained entry, the number 1A, the number 4 Litigate, who eventually wins this race, a horse who had reportedly been working well for Todd Pletcher despite going off at that 9-2 inflated price. But I want to note the number 8, Slip Mahoney, who might fly under the radar coming out of this race because he's a horse who just seemed coming in like he was one that was going to need a start, even though he had been training well into this debut. 6.5 furlongs just felt like it might be too short of a distance for him. But while the running line might look fairly average printed on paper, you can see he actually makes some multiple moves during this race. He didn't break that sharply, but you could see he split horses pretty nicely there at the half-mile pole to run up into 6th as they move around the far turn. Still, though, he's running through a kickback here, and he's going to make another move right about here as Dylan Davis tries to angle him to the outside to come around that other half of the Chad Brown trained entry. And once he angles out into the center of the race course, he's going to spin his wheels just a little bit, but once they finally straighten out in the stretch, he's going to lengthen his stride pretty nicely and finish off this race well. The top 3 are just kind of pulling away from the field here. They're going to create some separation between everybody else and themselves, and you can see the number 4 Litigate, who eventually does win this race, takes a little bit of time straightening himself out, but towards the left of the screen there's Slip Mahoney. He's going to leave the screen just briefly, but he's going to run across the wire pretty nicely. You can see him as they come across the finish line. He's actually finishing fastest of all. He's going to try to catch those horses on the gallop out. Just thought, given the fact that this was a pace that mostly held together, not a whole lot of closing going on, Slip Mahoney is a horse that really did show some ability despite finishing 4th. It is one that is very likely to improve stretching out in his next start. Brad Cox is a trainer that doesn't always have his first-time starters cranked up to win on debut, especially when they're meant to go longer. Also in New York, his debut numbers just aren't terribly inspiring. And Slip Mahoney really does have a pedigree that says added distance is going to be his friend. He's by Aragate, that Travers winner whose progeny generally do want to go farther. The Dam Got Lucky was a grade 1 spinster winner. So there's a plenty of stamina on the bottom and top side of this pedigree. And I think we're going to see a better effort from Slip Mahoney when he gets to go a route distance, likely in the second start of his career. So those are all the horses to watch for this week. If you want to follow these horses moving forward, you can add them to your horse watch on DRF.com. Just add them to a list under your account and you'll get email notifications when these horses run back in the future. Thanks for tuning in this week and make sure to catch future episodes of Horses to Watch on upcoming Wednesdays.